going on, everyone? So I'm over here standing outside of a 7-Eleven. The reason why I'm standing here is simply because there was a shooting not too long ago, just about a day or 2 days ago, that happened out in the Riverside County area. Now, I am in the Riverside County area. I do, however, live in the city of Paris. And this 7-Eleven here, it's located in the city of Paris. So now the reason why I'm doing this is because we have seen a lot of crazy stuff happening in our country right now. Here in the United States, we have seen a lot of shootings happening, whether that is in Chicago, what happened last week. There's been a lot of politics that involve gun control. And so with that, it comes to mind is, what are we going to do with that? What's going to happen? What's the government doing it? What's the government going to do with the gun control? Well, my only thinking is, how do we control, if the government isn't doing anything about it, how do we control ourselves when we are situated in a place like this? Now, I was not part of the event that happened in Riverside County, which there was a shooting from Riverside all the way up to Brea, and it stopped all the way in Santa Ana. However, there was a person that was killed and another one that was injured, I believe. With that comes what that says to me being a former Marine, what would I have done differently if I was placed in that situation? Well, what comes to me to mind is that, let's just say that I'm over here standing, filling up my gas, and then all I hear is just guns. Now, one thing that you got to know about me is that I was previously in the Marine Corps. I served 5 years. And what I did was I served in Iraq and Afghanistan. So my level of thinking might be a little bit different from most of you. So with that, what I'm saying is that, what would have to happen if you find someone inside the store that was previously military or that is a police officer? That could have been a civilian at that moment. When I say civilian, I mean that person was off duty. So my first thought to mind is that what I would have done, definitely what I would have done was to take cover. That's what we call in the Marine Corps. That's what we call in the military, is to take cover. When you hear something very abnormal, is you want to take cover, making sure that you're okay. And you hear this on airplanes. Make sure that before you put on your mask, that you make sure that before you help somebody else put on their mask, that you help yourself put on your mask first, right? That's what we hear all the time. Put on your seatbelt first. Make sure that you put on your mask first. Make sure you help yourself first before you help anybody else. So for me, would have been take cover. Take cover, assess the situation, what is happening, what happened at that moment, and then from there, the mind reacts in a military way, is reacting to scanning for what's wrong, what's happening. And that, I believe, that is every human. But my point is that every military person that I am sure you would have found was, let me assess the situation, let me see what's happening, let me see what is going on. I personally would have taken cover. My reaction would have been different than most individuals would have found themselves into, which is, let me scream for help. Let me run when I see the possibility to run. It's very different when you find yourself being a civilian. Now, I'm not saying that all civilians are created the same and not all military are created the same. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that the level of thinking, the critical thinking that comes to mind for someone who was in the military, the first reaction is, let me assess the situation of what is happening, what is wrong. So that would have been my first instinct. But with that, there's a lot of what's happening in our world today, in our country especially, of what we're seeing right now as far as the gun control, and as far as like what is going to happen, what the government is going to do with that. Because obviously, this individual had the guts to go inside of a 7-Eleven and drive all the way out to Brea and then all the way out to Santa Ana to go shoot somebody else. Now, we don't know the whole story about who's really this individual But my message to you, what I'm trying to say here is what a military person, someone like myself, who served 5 years in the United States Marine Corps, would have done if he would have found himself in that situation when you hear a shooting. First reaction would have been take cover. Take cover, assess the situation, see what's happening, and scan for anything that is wrong. And then from there, make sure that you make the right decision onto whether that is help the individual that is next to you, or whether that is to run to the door, secure the area. There's a lot of things that you do as a police officer, fireman, former military. There's a lot of things that you go with it. Your level of thinking, your critical thinking elevates to a different level. And that is what I'm trying to say here. It just elevates to a different level. So with that, what's going to happen? What's going to happen to our gun control? What are we going to do with our children that are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and these things keep on happening? So with that, I hope that there is a way that we can take over this. But for me personally, it comes to the values that you teach when you're raising your children, the values that you teach your individuals, your relatives, when you are raising them in your house. Because I read an article not too long ago where it talked about children in the 1950s, 1960s, they didn't go out to schools and start shooting. Why? Because the values were different back then. The values that we're seeing today in 2022 are very different than what it was in 1950. You're talking about 72 years ago. So that applies to all across the world. But how we're going to change that? And it all starts with changing the values, changing the way we think, changing the way we teach our children to be raised in our household. That is how I believe. That is how I think it will start. It doesn't start by implementing laws. It doesn't start by implementing policies. It all starts with the individual and putting that mindset, putting those values for that child to be raised, so they can have those values and they have something to look forward to when they become of age, whether that is 18 or 21 years old. With that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what you think. Let me know what's happening in your country. I know that I have some of you that are connected from Malaysia, Indonesia, India, Portugal, Peru, Italy, France. I know that some of you guys are all the way out there. Let me know what's happening around your country. Let me know what you're seeing out there, because I'm curious to know how your country is reacting to those policies. With that being said, thank you guys for watching.